Welcome, builders of the internet. My name is Jessa, and today I'm going to talk about something I'm sure everyone has had to or will have to deal with at some point in their lives: managing your workload. In particular, I'll be talking about burnout, some of the pros and cons of stress, managing stress by prioritizing, and working out your optimal workload. Is building on my mind. Burnout. Many people will have to manage their workload at some point, say if you have a job, studies at school or university, or any other activities and commitments that you might have alongside. I'm sure many of us will face times that it seems that all the deadlines and pressures come at once, and it's hard to say no sometimes to some of the stuff that we have going on. So it's important to consider how to manage our time in order to prevent a burnout from happening. This is when people reach a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion after experiencing excessive periods of stress for a long time. So it's basically the result of feeling too much stress for too long. This can occur due to various reasons, but often it can start when there is an imbalance between work demands compared to what each individual is capable of doing. So, for example, having too much to do and not enough time to do it in. Some people might have an emotional response to this, and burnout presents itself differently from person to person, but typically there are three categories of response. The first is where people have physical exhaustion, say feeling fatigued and having less energy. The second facet is where people exhibit more cynical behaviours, becoming irritable, having negative or inappropriate attitudes in their daily interactions, or being more withdrawn. The third dimension is inefficacy, say being less effective, where some people have reduced productivity, low morale, and become less able to cope with their daily demands. I feel like this is a point that probably nobody wants to reach, so let's take a step back and think of what might lead us to this stage. Stress. Many people perceive stress as a negative state that we might want to get rid of. It can be a bit difficult to define, but for the purposes of this video, stress starts with a stimulus, which causes our brains to feel pressure or strain to react in a fight or flight system, also known as the stress response. An example of where we might exhibit this stress response is when something happens in our life that is 1. Novel, so it might be new and maybe quite unusual. 2. It's unpredictable, so maybe we didn't see these circumstances arising. And 3. When we feel like we don't have control over the situation. Often we might be able to recognize stress when we have feelings of fatigue or depression. We might have chest pains and a fast heartbeat, and maybe we experience dizziness, shakiness, or have breathing issues. And for some people, there is also a change in appetite, sleeping patterns, and participation in physical activities. When we experience chronic stress in particular, this is stress that can last for hours per day, maybe for several weeks or months on end. It can affect our mental health, such as an increased risk for anxiety or depression, or maybe lesser extremes where we might lose interest in physical activities, lose some sleep, or our memory and decision-making abilities are affected. Stress can also have an impact on our physical health, including issues with our digestive system, say with stomach aches and diarrhea. There's also increased chances of obesity, where blood sugar levels and your appetite might increase, which can then lead to weight gain. Another effect is on your immune system, which might get weaker, as well as the cardiovascular system being affected. Here you might have higher blood pressure, heart rate, and cholesterol levels, which are all risk factors for heart disease and strokes later in life. This definitely isn't to say that stress is purely negative. When we experience short-term stress that lasts for lesser duration, say of minutes to hours instead, this can actually have some positive effects, such as enhancing our immune response. Studies have shown that if you have short-term stress, there can be more effective healing of your wounds, as well as increased resistance to some infections. A lot of the positive effects also come from how we personally perceive and react to stress. For example, it can motivate people to work harder and meet any daily challenges. There is a specific name for a beneficial response to stress called eustress, where people have associated positive feelings when they found the optimal amount of stress. With this, there are links with better performance in sports and work, and some cases where stress can be shown to help achieve tasks more efficiently. It is also definitely worth noting that stress is a natural response that has been beneficial for humans and other animals over the years to help us survive and be alert to unexpected threats, so in the moment that we can think more clearly, and then certain aspects of our perception, learning and memory are enhanced in order to keep us alive. Essentially, stress is something that many of us will have to deal with, but the way we decide to respond can really benefit us. Say, rewarding yourself for completing any tasks and ensuring that you have enough time to take care of yourself can really help minimize the negative effects of stress. But now I'll talk about my personal approach to managing my workload: prioritizing. Managing stress by prioritizing. Lots of us have been in situations where there is way too much to do, but just not enough time to do it in. And this, I guess, is just a fact of life that some of us will have to deal with. One of my colleagues gave me some really good advice. They said that sometimes we will have a lot of deadlines where it's pretty much impossible to meet them all, and we might have to determine the lower priority tasks where there is less consequence for not getting it done. Essentially, we might have to choose who we disappoint. Of course, nobody really wants to be in this position of disappointing other people, but in order to mitigate that, communication is so essential and can help buy you some extra time. For example, if I have a task at work due for the end of the week, but pretty much no time to do it in, if I let my colleagues know, preferably as soon as possible, for when I can realistically get it done by, then a lot of the time they'll be okay with this, or they can help me actually meet the original deadline by delegating and sharing some of the workload that I have with other people. But moving away from this work example, it is definitely worth having a think about what things there are in your life overall that are most important to you specifically, and not what other people are telling you is most important. Maybe you really value spending time caring for your family and friends, or want to do well at university, or strive for a promotion at work, and I'm sure there are many other facets to life, such as your hobbies with maybe sports, music, or other activities you take part in that are incredibly meaningful to you. Daily priorities can change all the time, but you can get the gist of what's most relevant and beneficial for your time by thinking of your long-term goals and what you can do right now to help get you there. You might want to think of the realistic side of what happens if I don't get some of this stuff done immediately. And a lot of the time for me, if say I don't get a YouTube video uploaded on time, all it means for me is that I just post it a little bit later than usual, and that's really not hurting anybody. For me, the same can be said about making posts on social media or with my personal creative projects, so I don't feel so guilty about not meeting every single deadline. I found this mentality has really helped me structure my daily routine to spend it in the most fulfilling way to me, which could help meet my goals. And this in turn has really helped manage my stress too. The optimal workload. Something that I've had to learn and come to terms with in the past few years is that everybody has varying levels of capability in terms of how much they can handle in their daily lives. I'm personally somebody who likes to keep as busy as possible, so doing university alongside work, as well as having side projects and other volunteering things to work on, really helps keep me feeling at my best. But it is very easy to get myself trapped into comparing myself to other people and feeling really inadequate with what I've achieved. My main message of today is to do what works best for you. Recognize and appreciate your achievements and try and do things in such a way that is most fulfilling and meaningful for yourself. You might have to take a moment to reflect on what exactly this means for you personally, but once I did this for myself, it really helped me be present, enjoying and appreciating my daily activities, as well as having some kind of idea on what the point of all this is and the direction that it could take me. If you have any thoughts on this topic, feel free to leave a comment or drop me a message on social media. There's links in the description. That's all I have to say for now. I hope it helped build on your mind. Thanks for watching. This channel is building on my mind. Check out my other videos, but first hit the bell and comment, like, subscribe. Please, it really helps with you.